delay fatigue during low intensity, high duration events, one solution to this could be glucose ingestion, and this would maintain blood glucose levels, meaning that they can continue to work at consistent intensity and overall performance. Examples of this would be taking energy gels or energy drinks with high levels of glucose in them. This means that as blood glucose levels are maintained, that means the body wouldn't fatigue. It would take longer to fatigue. As looking at the previous video of that graph, where over time the the glucose levels inside muscles, that decreases over time. So this would then increase the glucose levels once more, meaning that it would take longer for the performer to fatigue. So, for example, for the triathlon athlete, if they were to take an energy gel towards the end of the cycle, towards the start of the run, they would have been working for a prolonged period of time, probably as it's an event over an hour and a half. 90 minutes is when blood glucose levels start to decrease to a level where a performer would become extremely fatigued. So at that 90 minutes, if a triathlon athlete was to take an energy gel to top up their blood glucose levels, it means that they can maintain their performance and to prevent them from slowing down and then therefore getting a slower time. Another method would be glycogen or carbo loading, and this is a technique used before an event, whereas the glucose ingestion was a technique used during the event. And using this graph here, it shows that they would use it a week before an event, with the idea being doing exercise with low consumptions of carbohydrates to therefore lower the muscle glycogen levels. And then, so this is maintained here. And then approximately 3 days before an event, exercise then decreases in intensity and volume, and the consumption of carbohydrates would then increase. And this means that the muscles would want to hold on to this glycogen as it's been depleted of it. And because of this, the muscle glycogen levels would then increase to a higher level that they were before, meaning that at the day of the event, they then begin working with a higher muscle glycogen level than if they were just to rest normally. And you can see it is nearly doubled in volume of the muscle glycogen levels in this graph, from about 80 millimoles per kilogram to about 150 millimoles per kilogram. And this would mean that looking at the triathlon athlete, if they're starting an event with a higher glycogen levels, that means it would take much longer for the muscle glycogen levels to deplete, meaning that it would take longer for the performer to fatigue and eventually slow down. Another way in which the performer can delay fatigue is pre-cooling, and this is to wearing a cooling vest before an event to effectively aim to lower the core temperature of the body, meaning that it would take longer during the event for the performer to overheat, or having to rely on the body to thermoregulate at such a level where an increased amount of blood would be going to the skin instead of the muscles, meaning that using pre-cooling, the triathlete would then be able to work at a much more efficient and higher rate, as less unnecessary blood is going to the skin, meaning that more blood is going to the muscles, meaning that more oxygen is being transported to the muscles. And looking at this graph, we can see that here with the pre-cooling, use of pre-cooling, the performers last much longer than the control group and the preheating group especially. One last way to delay fatigue would be hydration. And as we know, dehydration increases blood viscosity, and therefore the aerobic system is forced to work harder, as the heart needs to contract harder to be able to pump the blood throughout the body, as the blood is thicker and doesn't flow as easily. So hydration throughout the event would also help to maintain core temperature, so that would help with the pre-cooling, meaning that less blood would need to go to the skin to thermoregulate, meaning that more blood is going to the muscles, which provides a higher volume of oxygen. This would also clearly be good for the triathlete, as throughout the race, if they hydrate themselves, their aerobic system wouldn't have to work as hard compared to a performer who was dehydrated, meaning that they could work at a higher intensity for longer periods of time, maximising their performance.